Happy Father's Day, fellow armchair Imagineers. To celebrate today, we're going to take a look at, my golly by G, one of the most delightful, perky, uplifting, quirky, I could keep going with adjectives.
A real Field of Dreams kind
right,
of
it's just a real pick-me-upper. No. Today we're talking about The Father, which... Not gonna lie, Dragon. I've seen this movie once, and it's kind of a masterpiece. I honestly don't ever want to see it again, though. It's one of those movies for me where this thing really hits hard, bro. Like, I wanted to do a rewatch of this for for research purposes for the podcast, but man, I emotionally just wasn't up for it. This thing almost, like, I say this in the most complimentary way possible, but this thing almost does its job too well. So yeah, for Father's Day, we are talking The Father. Dragon, we've been on a little bit of an Anthony Hopkins kick recently.
Yes, we have.
Of course, we just recently recorded a commentary for Amistad, which is a very underrated Spielberg film. It's a little bit long in the tooth with some courtroom stuff, not gonna lie, but it's got a fantastic cast, so... So yeah, we're getting to The Father. Now, Dragon, of course, this was the winner of the Best Actor Academy Award, which was pretty damn shocking, even to the Academy itself, because famously they put this at the very end of the Oscar ceremony, thinking full well, I'm guessing that Chadwick was going to win, and lo and behold, Hopkins wins. So, egg on face to the Academy, but not in the sense of who they actually voted for. Now, I want to make this clear, folks. I think Chadwick Boseman was electric in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I really think he gave a great performance. And I really think it's a goddamn tragedy that the man is never actually going to win an Academy Award. But I'll be damned if Hopkins didn't deserve every ounce of that freaking gold statue, man. I mean, like, I feel like this really cements Hopkins' legacy. If it was ever in doubt at all, this is just like, no, Hopkins never lost his touch. The dude is still just like cranking out performances that are even more mind-blowing than in his golden age. I mean, just this Dragon, this is a once-in-a-lifetime type of performance. This is a once-in-a-generation type of performance. I honestly would probably liken this type of performance to something like Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood. In the sense, like, two completely different movies, mind you, but just in the sense of, like, there's only one, man. Like, like, Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood, I think, is pretty definitively, at least for my money, the best lead acting performance of the 2000s. Like, definitively for me. And I really think that, of course, this is a little bit tricky because it's right on the cusp of being sort of like in between decades. It's the very start of a new decade in film. But I'll be goddamn, man, the 2020s have some stiff competition because this is already just a benchmark performance. As for the movie itself, Dragon, like I said, I feel like it's very hard to watch in some spots, but it's absolutely compelling, and the way that it tells the story, the ambiguity and the the timeline of it all, it's all very compelling stuff. So, what say you, Dragon?
What say me?
What say you?
I was hunting down The Father for a long while, so I was delighted to finally be able to watch it about I guess a month or two back. I can't remember when. I think it was last month. Yeah. So anyway, so The Father, this is a true Oscar winner. I mean, if you look at what it was up against, I mean, just, even for feature, I know it didn't win for feature, but I mean, there was stiff competition. For example, like Judas and the Black Messiah.
Honestly, I think it's way better than Nomadland. Let's be honest.
Well, I agree with that. What I'm saying is, I mean, something like Judas and the Black Messiah was another great contender that I could have seen.
Yeah, Judas and the Black Messiah was probably, like, out of all the Black Picture, the Black Picture, Jesus Christ. Christ, get your head out of the gutter.
The best picture.
The best picture. Out of all the best picture nominees this year, I think Judas was definitely the one I was pulling for sure. But
I mean, again, I couldn't say like The Father because I hadn't seen it yet. I couldn't say that for certain. Now after seeing it, I mean, I gotta tell you, between the two, maybe, because this thing, again, having it win for actor, I think kind of is a win-win in that case because Anthony Hopkins, as you said, he gives a once-in-a-lifetime performance of a man's life. That's what he does here. This movie, it's so cleverly shot in a way that it showcases perspective and the perspective and the tragedy of a father who's losing himself. And what I love about the movie is such an honest performance and presentation of that. The film, ultimately, I think, looking back on the film tackles the question of what is a father to do when he's outlived his role, but not as like an empty nest syndrome, because we've seen that story before. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, there's no empty nest syndrome. Daughter's very much in his life, but what does a father do once we've never, we don't really see that story often at all.
I've seen a lot of, well, not a lot of. I mean, there's only so many of these types of movies I can take, but I've seen at least a couple really well-regarded films about amnesia, but you know what they're always told from the perspective of, Dragon? It's always told from the perspective of a spouse.
Sure, like
this is very much the first one that I've seen kind of like have the the parental dynamic in it.
A little more dementia than amnesia, but yeah.
Oh, did I say amnesia? Jesus,
yeah, you said
Christ,
amnesia.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's more 50%.
I know that face.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right, so again, we're talking about kind of it's compelling as all get out, folks. Maybe not like a feel-good Father's Day film, but a compelling one all the same. So let's let Tiki tell me the story of how the heck we get the father. Because I knew nothing. The father, I saw the trailer, and the trailer captivated me. Of course, Anthony Hopkins acting, I'm in. And it looks like the film kind of sold me. It sucked me in. I knew nothing about this film. I still know nothing about this film. Tell me about it.
Well, I got to be honest with you, Dragon. There's not a whole lot of backstory to this that I was able to dig up. It's not like a huge, complicated arc or anything, but there are there's definitely some interesting wrinkles along the way. So The Father was a French play from Florian Zeller, who went on to direct the movie.
That makes the she wants to go to Paris. I don't even speak English there. Even funnier when you think about it.
Right. So The Father, Dragon, it was a huge smash hit play. Especially in the critic community. A lot of journalists in the in the theater sphere call it the best play of the 2010s, just straight up the best new original play of the 2010s. The play was translated into English, and Dragon, this is the big moment here. I've been hyping this up for you a little bit. The play opened on Broadway at the Manhattan, at the Samuel J. Friedman Theater in 2016. Drag, I want you to take a guess, because it's someone we definitely know. I want you to take a guess at who played the title role.
I know who I want to be, but I don't think it's going to be him.
It's not Jonathan Banks.
No. Well, I'm assuming it's going to be an English actor, right?
I honestly don't know off the top of my head.
Well, I mean, I was going to throw out Michael
No,
Sheen.
Actually, no.
Okay, well, if it's not an English actor, that throws out kind of my Welsh pick, or my bigly Welsh pick. Okay, Ed Asner?
No.
Darn, that would have been amazing, though.
It would have been. You're right.
I mean, I say it's an American actor.
American actor. I'll give you one more shot.
Okay, American actor we talk a lot about.
I'll give you 2 shots. I'll give you 3 strikes.
Oh, God. All right.
I really think you can get it.
Oh, jeez. All right. I'm trying to think who we talk about. So it's not, you said not Banks.
It's not Banks.
It's not Banks. God. All right. Not on my game tonight. So let me.
I know. I'm sorry.
Can you give me any hint at all, or no?
Oh, I feel like if I give you a hint, it'd kind of give it away. Okay, I'll give you a hint. Um, he was in another stage adaptation that we also kind of geek out about.
Wasn't
That's
Mark Hamill,
that.
was it?
No, not Mark Hamill. That's the best hint I can give you.
Okay, I got one. I got a lousy guess. I'm guessing's not my forte tonight, folks. All right, let me throw out John Lithgow.
Nope.
Okay, I got nothing.
Frank Langella.
Oh, darn it. Yeah, Langella. Yeah, well, Langella's wonderful. That's great.
Yeah. I mean, you can just picture it, right?
I can very easily. Now you say, oh my
Yeah.
God, Langella
Yeah.
would absolutely, he'd kill it. And we talked about.
I definitely would like to see like a recording of the whole thing.
You never saw Robot and Frank, did you?
What?
You ever see Robot and Frank, the movie that he did?
No, I did not.
It's kind of like he's an old man in that story as well. It's sort of like it's kind of more sci-fi take on this, but it's something anyway. But yeah, that is also because of that I could absolutely see him in
his acting range.
What?
I said him playing an old man. That's really stretching his acting range.
You know.
I'm sorry.
It's not like there's a powerful theme to this movie or anything that's just flying in the face of.
Yeah. Okay, so Dragon, I mean, like other than that, Frank Langella won a Tony for the role, which is also really cool because it's Hopkins won the Oscar, Langella won the Tony. It honestly makes me want to see Hopkins do like a revival of the play just so he can also win a Tony for the role.
Yep, and of course it would be Tony winning a Tony.
Right.
Hopkins. Boom, boom.
But Dragon, honestly, the film came about super naturally. Like as I said, it's it's like the film, the play released in 2012 in France, so it had a long time to get up like a groundswell of like one of the best plays of the decade, and just basically full stop. The studio just offered Zeller the film, and is his first directorial work. They just had a ton of confidence in him, especially because of the way that Zeller he would pitch the idea of The Father as a movie, basically like using the essentially Dragon. He would pitch the whole idea that The Father would be a great kind of like something that would transcend both movie and stage, because you can do a lot of like really interesting visual things with The Father as far as the set design goes and as far as the editing and everything, but it's also a story that works really well just on stage, just as two actors talking. So with that in mind, it was just a very easy. I don't really have a lot to say about how everything got, it came together very easily. So
I mean, honestly, the main thing I was curious about is I wonder if, okay, can you tell me this? In the original play, is the actor does the actor keep their name, or is it always Anthony or Anthony?
No, it's Anthony in the play.
So it's Anthony in the play.
Yeah, in the play. Yeah.
Okay,
no,
okay.
That's just a coincidence.
Well, that's the thing, though. It makes me wonder if perhaps Anthony Hopkins was struck by it when offered, perhaps with the fact that, hey, my name's in. This is kind of a little shell shocking,
Hey, this role is named after me.
Well, maybe not so simplistically, but
terrible Anthony Hopkins impression.
Very true. But you see what I mean, though? It's just the fact of like maybe that spoke to him in that regard. Like Anthony Hopkins getting up there very obviously, and he's kind of now kind of the elder statesman of kind of the absurdum in terms of the actors, if you will. It's gonna. I might get to a guy after a while, seeing the power of the script and the story. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. So mystery solved there. Let's start simple here. Let's start with our setup here. So our setup very simply is Anthony, both Hopkins and the man. He's in his flat, and his daughter Anne, she's struggling to get him a new caregiver so she can go to Paris with her boyfriend Paul.
Everyone's favorite character in this movie, right?
Yeah. The real
We all
question.
love Paul, my boy Paul.
Tall Paul,
Oh
tall
God,
Paul.
how did I know you were gonna go there?
Go to the Sherman Brothers. That's why.
I had a feeling.
All right. Okay, so so again, very, very, very theatrically. We have one main set. Very stage play esque, more accurately. We have one main set. It's an apartment with all these really great corridors and hallways, which I think really helps kind of the labyrinthian nature of the mental kind of parallel really nicely.
Mhm.
I love how initially just how straightforward everything is. So we have it's a story we've seen a million times, right? It's like the prideful father, I don't need a caregiver.
Yeah,
It's
it basically just starts very much just like, oh, he's a little bit loopy, but he's still more or less got all his faculties about him. He pretty much knows who he is and what's going on. You know what I mean?
yeah, he accuses the nurse of stealing his watch. It's about as far
Hey,
off as it gets.
that right there, Dragon. I wasn't too deeply connected to this because I was pretty young, and my great grandmother was in a home, and so I didn't really have to experience any of it firsthand. But I can say that my great grandma, towards the end, and she was like over 100 years old when she died. Towards the end, man, she got super nasty when it came to accusing the help of stealing, and she, like I said, she was in a retirement home. And yeah, that was really ugly, man. I remember my grandpa would just come home and just be a just a wreck. So that kind of stuff, like as soon as that basically popped in, I was like, oh boy, like that, like we're going to go down a dark road with that stealing stuff because that is very true to life.
Yeah, so the authenticity is struck, and of course, I mean, first glance, you think, okay, well, this movie can be Anthony Hopkins resting on his laurels of, okay, he's the elder statesman of actors, just kind of like, he's playing a generic old man. Now let's see where it goes, and then,
I gotta be
well,
honest with you, Dragon. That's kind of what I was expecting, even after the win.
yeah, I mean, I've honestly just every time Anthony Hopkins never does anything halfway, so to give him points there. I love that Anthony Hopkins really found the height of his success late in life. If you think about it, like Hannibal Lecter's not a young man, when he
Mhm.
when he did that. I mean, Elephant Man is probably the youngest you can ever see Anthony Hopkins at big success. And before Silence of the Lambs, he was thinking about hanging it up. Things weren't going well for him.
Mhm.
He was going to stick to theater exclusively. Anyway, so like when we do like Thor, when we talk Thor Ragnarok. I mean, his performance in Thor Ragnarok is really moving. It's only a couple scenes, but it's like the whole, "Are you Thor, God of Hammers?" Like it's so insanely charming and just like I don't know, it's something. The man always brought it. And of course, like you think, okay, it's gonna be. I'm in for Anthony Hopkins as I came to the movie with, but then things take a turn. Let's talk about kind of our perspective reveal.
Yeah, this is the twist, right?
Yeah, yeah, the twist, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's weird to call it a twist, right? But it is. I don't know of any other term you can call it.
Oh, that's the thing. I keep calling it a reveal, but you're right though. It's more of a twist, but it's kind of not a twist. It's
Like
hard to.
I feel kind of like I feel bad calling it a quote unquote twist, but like it is very much a turn in the narrative that kind of like turns everything on its head. Like
And
I
literally,
don't
we
know what
turn
else
into
to
another
call it.
room. Ergo, it's a turn. So yeah.
Yeah, right.
But there's rewatching the film. Tiki, there's this really clever detail I never noticed before. The uh, the movie starts with some classical music, and we see that Anthony is listening to it on his headphones, and when he removes the headphones, the music stops. So that's a clue that we're going to be in his perspective big time in this movie. It's a really clever little clue. I really
Mhm.
enjoyed that. So yeah, so basically it all starts from my recollections like when he's putting away groceries, and hears a sound after Anne has left, and he investigates the sound, goes down the hallway, and I mean, folks, I could be wrong about the number of the time frame precisely here, but I could have sworn after watching
Don't
it like twice. What?
I don't necessarily think that there is a concrete date on it.
I could have sworn. Here's the thing. I think you're right. I think the middle ground is I heard 10 years brought up in conversation. Now, I don't know if that means 10 years since the last scene or if that means 10 years just in general things that would
Sure,
happen.
it's not 10 years since the thing with the sister.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It could be 10 years since the thing of the sister, 10 years since the
'Cause
last.
I
That's
think
like,
that I think the sister thing might be more on the money.
Right. Well, the point being, we walk down a hole. Any way you slice it, folks, whether it's 10 years, which if it's the case, it's jaw dropping. Oh my God! But anyway, slice it though. He walks in a hallway. He finds a random guy in his flat, and a lot of time has passed, as in like he was just living alone in his flat to having essentially his daughter and her boyfriend moved into his flat with him, or by him moved in with her, more accurately. They're not
So
in his
just
flat.
like the blank spots in memory, and just kind of like how the movie kind of starts to it essentially starts to do this weird sort of storytelling where all the where we get a shit ton of story, but it all just bleeds together and the timeline just kind of fades away.
It's a little Coco-esque if you think about it. It's the whole idea of, with if no one's left to remember you, then you fade away out of existence. In this case, if the loneliness is kind of the kryptonite to Anthony in this film, as in when I love with the device, we reach a point where when he gets desperate, like towards like kind of the back half, like kind of in that act two kind of space, it's like, don't leave me alone. Like, just like, please don't leave. It's like, don't leave the room, because every time someone leaves the room, they're going to come back and time will have passed.
Yeah, right. And just the whole idea of just like being alone with your own thoughts, and like, as someone who suffers from pretty hard depression, like a lot of the times I thrive with, just being alone and just being creative and whatever. But yeah, when I'm in a depressive spiral, man, it's like it's not like losing my identity, but I do feel like I can just kind of like lose myself, so.
And also, again, there's an element of truth there with like the old folks being like not visited anymore, being forgotten. It's the separation there, like you are left alone, and just like you're going to lose those memories, you're going to lose that experience, you're going to lose the tethers to what your life is accumulated to at this point.
Right. Yeah.
So
should we talk about the boyfriend, the piece of shit?
Well, sure. I was wondering if here's with the perspective, there's obviously a lot of stuff that ties into Paul. So let's talk about Paul and just kind of some of the other kind of visual kind of things that we do with the whole perspective stuff.
So Paul is the reason why I don't want to rewatch this movie, frankly.
Yeah, Paul. Here's the thing, Tiki. Later, okay, so we're jumping around a little, folks, but so Paul.
Well, that's pretty appropriate for the film.
Exactly. So yeah, we're fine. So Paul, there's a bit in the movie that just had me gobsmacked of like, oh no, where Paul is slapping poor Anthony.
Yeah, that's the moment right there. I can't fucking watch that shit. Dragon gets me too riled up.
But here's the thing, though. I mean, I'm taking it at the end of the day. I'm taking it to have actually happened. But there's a question of like, it's so cruel. Could it have happened? Like again, it's the unreliable thing. You don't know if it happened or not. It could be in his mind because he's imagining the other guy's face on him.
Okay, if it is in his mind, then that's honestly even more disturbing.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Either I kind of after the rewatch, I take it to mean I just think Paul's just that awful that has just happened. Like
I honestly think it did happen, just because I feel like it's a very realistic outburst of frustration.
Yeah, and I like that there's a splash of gray in Paul initially, where Paul he brings up the point, but he brings up very harshly, and it does raise that ambiguous question of, is Anthony?
He's got a good point. He's as far as his concern for Anne, his heart is in the right place. Obviously, where he goes off the rails morally is how he handles himself in front of Anthony. That's where he goes off the rails. That's where he becomes a piece of shit.
Yeah, and again, the question to me perhaps is, did he say that to him once, and that's why it keeps coming back, or is that just the mind's like opinion of himself filtered through Paul? That's what I'm curious about on the rewatch. Like, I wonder. I mean, I
feel like the whole movie is a puzzle like that.
I know. I love that.
You can interpret any part of the movie like that. So
but seriously, the moment where we're confusing Paul for James, the original husband, and then I'm taking. So of course we have two actors playing Paul, and again that's where things get crazy and clever. We have Rufus Swell, who was in the Judy Garland movie. He played the Sid, the husband in the Judy Garland movie. And we have my preference of the two. We have Mark, the initial guy, Mark Gatiss, and Mark Gatiss. He was in the Sherlock show with Benedict Cumberbatch. He played Mycroft, his brother, and he was the bad guy in Christopher Robin. So yeah, he
Oh
was.
God, Jesus Christ, Dragon! That sentence right there is why I don't like Christopher Robin as much as you do.
In fact, there's a bad guy in Christopher Robin.
Yes, the fact that there's a bad guy. Yes,
You
like
know,
I can accept the smarmy banker in Mary Poppins Returns, but come on, man, Winnie the Pooh does not need a villain.
I think I'll disagree with that. I mean, but we don't have time to get into that. I'm just saying, like,
It's been a while since I've watched that movie.
Like, you're gonna defend Colin Firth in that movie versus like just like the guy's barely in the plot.
I'm saying Colin Firth fits Mary Poppins more than that guy fits Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, we kept throwing.
At least in the original Mary Poppins, there were dickish bankers.
There were, but we didn't animate
They were
them.
evil, but they were still dicks.
We made him like a menacing wolf. Anyway, we're drifting off topic. Okay, let's rein it back. Anyway, so yeah. So I love the idea of as I said, I love when Anthony starts worrying when people leave the room as he's losing time. And something that we kind of use, one of the symbols of the film that we kind of do through Paul initially is Anthony has lost his watch. He's worried that people are stealing his watch and he can't find his watch. And think about it, I want to say for the majority of the movie, every time we do the time jump thing, we mess around with time, he doesn't have his watch on, so he's lost time.
Yeah, for sure.
As I think he's lost his watch.
I'm sure that's a real world thing as well.
Yeah, and exactly. I just love that we have these symbols and these totems and these little clues. Like, for example, let me tell you the trippiest thing in the movie for me. It still has me guessing. The dinner argument. Now, we walk in that scene. I haven't seen something like this since one of the Elm Street movies, and I was watching the Elm Street documentary. They have this thing where basically they trick. It's like you can trick the human mind into kind of like realizing, oh my god, I've seen this before, like a deja vu effect, and we kind of do it here where, in putting Anthony in the same sweater and collar as he walks to dinner, they're arguing, and he just says, "Oh, Dad, sit down. What are you doing, Santa? Sit down." And he sits down, and then things go the way they go, and he leaves. But then he comes back, and we mirror the exact opening of that scene where, Dad, what are you doing?
Right, yeah. And there's a couple moments in the movie that do that, but yeah, that is one of the more striking.
And that's where they trip you up, because Anne's color, she's always wearing blue in the movie, like her first scene. So it's like we're putting him in the outfits. And for example, Anthony is wearing the pajamas, and again, it's a wonderful passage of time thing. If an old person doesn't change out of their pajamas, they'll have the whole day can go by like that, where he's like, I thought it was morning. No, it's dinner time. Like haunting stuff like that. Like, oh my god, he's completely lost time.
Sure. I really do feel like the movie, like, very slowly it turns into it almost kind of turns into a horror movie about slipping away, about time slipping away from you. It does. It vaguely has a horror movie vibe to it, at least for me.
It does, yeah. Kind of like soft horror would be the right term.
You know what's interesting is that from the little I know about the differences between the play and the movie, is that the play does have a lighter tone, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah. Like, as far as I know, they still do a lot of the same stuff when it comes to, like, manipulating the timeline and leaving that ambiguous, but it's not as depressing.
All right.
I don't know how, but that's just what I've heard. Just that's kind of like the general sentiment.
Right, so again, just with Paul, again, you have like the whole honest answer runner, and you have the whole, like, a father's worst nightmare is to become a burden to their children. Honestly, there's the negative full circle. The father becomes the son becomes the father effect, in which, we start in this world as a baby, and we end up an old man. The old man needs to be taken care of like a baby. So it's kind of that whole cyclical, heady idea that movie really plays on, which we'll get to the huge impact of that later, folks. Huge impact. And again, just Paul's such a dirtbag. Even if it's imagined or the pressure is there anyway, he's abusing poor Anthony. And I'm absolutely convinced that it happened. But the face switching aspect is also very fascinating. The between Paul and Anne and Laura, we keep swapping the faces, and of course we later on reveal where exactly they come from. They're nurses in the nursing home.
Oh.
Yeah, how'd you feel about that? Like the whole like when Anne comes home, it's not her face.
It was one of the things I knew about the movie going into it was that they were going to pull that kind of stuff, so I kind of expected it. But yeah, it's well done. It's it definitely kind of like plays around. It keeps you on your toes for sure.
And of course, when Laura comes in looking exactly like that lady who played Anne, that's when the real head trip said, "Wait a minute, no, we saw
Right,
this lady
exactly,
before."
exactly. Yeah.
Oh, the memory game. So speaking of Laura, so let's talk about. So we have we have a nurse that comes in. We have like a caregiver that comes in who resembles his lost daughter. Who we basically it's kind of a secret in the movie that I think the audience is ahead of Anthony on that. Oh, something horrible happened to his other daughter.
I like how they keep it ambiguous. I like that they don't exactly spell out what happened, but yeah.
Yeah, the implication being she was in an accident and she died, being the implication. But I mean, we don't know.
But yeah, it is an interesting. I feel like it's almost kind of like a Chekhov's gun, if you will. Of like, when is Anthony gonna find out that? Like, it's like a piece of information that's like, honestly, Dragon. I was on the edge of my fucking seat when when the caregiver slips and it almost says that the sister's dead. Just because like I can I've never been in this position as a caregiver. I only did caregiving very briefly for one or two people, but my sister has made a profession out of it. So I got like kind of like secondhand career anxiety for my sister over a situation like this.
Because it reminds me a great deal of Bates Motel, when the whole idea is you have the projection of the loved one, and basically the wheels will come off when you realize, oh God, that loved one is not here.
Sure,
And I
sure.
think that's why we have the projection of Lucy, where I think unconsciously he's putting the pieces together, which is why the faces keep shifting. That's why we have that device in the movie where he's realizing his current situation, which again in itself is a head trip. Like, was he in the home the whole time, knowing these faces ahead of it? And again, he's playing with the sequence of events really cleverly. Like, Nolan would love this movie. Let's just say that right now.
He would. I would not be surprised if he's like written a think piece about it.
And I love that the fantasy is kind of like is the hope that Lucy's not gone, and I think that's very much why that happened. Of course, when we get to our very sad ending, we use Lucy, the realization, at least in like a nightmare form. Again, walking through the doors, walking through those hallways alone again.
Uh,
We reveal like, oh God, so that's it's kind of him coming into knowing, which means, well, now there's no hope, which leads to our sad ending. But before, again, I'm jumping ahead yet again because again, it's basically the reason he won the Oscar in my opinion. But
oh yeah.
let's talk about Anne. We're kind of sideswiping Olivia Colman here. Let's talk about Anne.
Yeah, I mean Olivia Colman, she's been getting a lot of hype for a while, and this is definitely the movie where I can really see it. I think one of the big things with her in this movie is just how it's like, you can tell she's like really fed up and at the end of a rope with the situation, but you also have every ounce of sympathy for her, and that is a freaking tightrope of an act to walk.
There's a very dark scene in this film that as perverse as it sounds, I sympathize with her. It's the moment where after think about it, her father has unintentionally, as far as it comes across to me, is unintentionally he berates her and he's really rude to her, and you feel horrible for
Uh-huh.
her. Where he's like, like bits where like he says like she's not very bright, she this and that, like like your sister was my favorite, like really pointed, and also a really pointed moment where Anthony accuses Anne of conspiring against him, like pretending not to, again, basically saying you're faking all this whole narrative device of the film to get my flat, which is really, that must really hurt her feelings. And after that, she has that nightmare of, what if in visiting my father at night, I suffocate him to death? What if I smother him? And again, it's like, in watching that scene, I can just kind of feel in the performance. It's not out of malice. It's not out of like he
Yeah,
said mean
yeah,
things to
yeah.
me. It's
If
like
anything,
a
it's out of
mercy to both of
mercy.
them. Yeah, it's a mercy to both of them in a sense.
Right, right, exactly.
And of course, I love how we teed up everything where there's kind of like there's a scale with Anthony here, where we have like he's an old man, he's a bon vivant old man who has his ways, and his ways can either be really good, like he's tap dancing, he's eating, he's taking his pills in a fun way with tea, and the other end, which is again he knows where to stick the dagger.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, how did you feel about the painting device?
Oh, you're gonna have to remind me.
Okay, so on the mantelpiece throughout the apartments, you have the painting that his daughter did, Lucy did. That every time he brags about Lucy, he's always talking. She made me this painting. She's an artist. So it's a pirouette, and he loses the painting. And after the painting's just mysteriously gone at some point in the movie, that's when the truth starts to seep in. That's when things really go south for him.
You know what's funny is that Billy Crystal movie I was telling you about.
Yep.
There's a painting that's also like a big plot device.
Really?
Yeah.
With those of us out there know how much we love Daredevil, we appreciate a good thematic painting.
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course the window too. The windows, window, kind of the truth of the location. Everything, like the one thing that cannot be forged. He just looks out the window and he'll recognize the place. You know, at least it seems that way. He just looks out the window. Of course, the window being kind of our big last money shot.
All right. Yeah, I mean, Dragon, like I said, overall, I feel like this film just, it kind of just sort of speaks for itself with the, there's not really a ton I can break down about it, to tell you the truth. I just feel like the performance is incredible. Like I said, I wish I had the guts to do a rewatch, but I wasn't feeling it.
It really is worth a rewatch, man, especially knowing what you know the first time. It really adds to it.
I mean, I'm sure it is, but I'm dealing with grandparents that are getting up there in age, so
Fair point. I get it.
It's touchy subject for me.
Yeah, I know. Yep, I'm more of kind of that Bill Burr school of like, shove it down, don't think about it. Not healthy. All right, so the last thing, unless there's anything else anything else we're missing outside the ending, is I think we should probably bridge into that, and that would be kind of the thing.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so let's talk the bittersweet fate and the tragedy of it all here. So basically, after the abuse moment, that's when we kind of make the transition of she's thinking, because she didn't witness the hits, which is really cruel, assuming they happen. It's just like he's terrified. He's completely out of his mind. He's the whole day he's waiting. He doesn't recognize the lady I saw him with yesterday. Doesn't recognize me. Like she has no other recourse but to put him in a care facility. Mm-hmm. He was having this bittersweet fate of you can't turn the clocks back, and Anne chooses to move forward. She goes to Paris. It's just. It's just, but it is painful at the same time. It's a move that given Anthony's coldness, it's a question of like, Anthony's been really cold to her throughout her life, being the impression. He's been like casually cruel to her, right. But at this stage, like he doesn't remember any of that.
Very much kind of like, Dragon, I don't know if you got this, but I very much got an Olga Pataki vibe.
Exactly, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very Olga. Again, like unintentionally, you just didn't think of it. And again, it's like the old English sort of thing of like, well, we don't talk about those things. It just never came up. Like, Dad, I'm feeling this way. It didn't come up. And life, and again, it's like he's been so cold to her in life, intentionally or no. It's just perhaps that has informed the decision. Perhaps I was just like, I can't break through, and again, I don't fault her for it. Like she's been as patient, everything. She's put her life on hold for the guy for years. How many I can't tell you, but for years.
Yeah.
And then we have the Oscar scene, the scene that now again, folks, just to reiterate, Chadwick Boseman, he is the utter standout of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Just he's phenomenal, and he gives truly performs life. And shame on the Academy for not nominating him for the other roles that he had incurred in life, because he was great in all of those. He really was. I'm just saying that. But you look what Anthony Hopkins did here. He delivered a bit of brilliance.
The whole movie Hopkins is transcendent, but this is just like him just going. He goes the full day Lewis, is what I like to call it. The full day Lewis.
This is when they you can hear as he starts the scene, you can hear him spritzing the little polishing the Oscar. You can you can hear him like drilling the name on the Oscar, however it looks.
Right.
Carving it on there, like they make it. You can hear the scrapes of Anthony Hopkins. So Anthony's breakdown. It's like now that he's alone, because she leaves him, and the whole like the Paris thing too, the back and forth in the Paris thing. Dad, what do you mean? I'm not going to Paris. Like, well, I thought you. Yes, you did, and you said yesterday. So she's finally gone. He's no longer independent. He's not in his flat anymore. That's very clear to him. And Anthony Hopkins, before our eyes, he goes from an old man to a small child.
Mm-hmm.
And we teed this up earlier with the whole little daddy thing. Like his daughter Lucy's nickname for him was Little Daddy. It was all cute and British and everything, Little Daddy. And again, I think it's kind of a clever foreshadow. Like, hey, he's going to be a little child despite him being a father. That's kind of the whole point of the movie.
I mean, like Dragon calling the moment where he transforms movie magic, I feel like is the wrong sort of terminology, but I don't know how else to put it. It's just the dude just transformed before our very eyes, and it's just so striking.
Anthony Hopkins does catharsis so perfectly. We talked about this with Amistad during the big speech that also could have been Oscar worthy, let's be honest. And again, did it all in one take. 7 pages of dialogue, and again, that's I'm sure he did something similar here. He's read the script 200 times and he got it. I just love like the moment where he's asked the fundamental question, "Who am I?" And the only thing he's left remembering in the entire after everything he's incurred in this whole movie is, I can remember my mother's face. Which that's when it starts. It's
very true to life too. Very true to life. I feel like that's a very common thing for Alzheimer's patients, is like, the last thing to go is early childhood memories. Like that stuff sticks with you to the grave.
That's what just affects me so fundamentally too. Just the idea that again, it's so full circle and it's beautiful yet so sad. The old man becomes a helpless child. He worded it so beautifully. I'm a tree losing leaves and branches. And
God, that line destroyed me.
I know, and given the last image of the movie, it's perfect. And of course, so Catherine was the lady whose face we used every time we cut away, every time we switched up the face on both Lucy and Anne. And again, Catherine basically being kind of the mother figure as well here. So we just have her line in response to this is really good too. It's kind of underrated until the rewatch. It's that let's go for a walk. We should always go for a walk when it's sunny, because it never lasts long when the weather's this clear. And it's just like, that's what Alzheimer's is. That's what the dementia is. It's like, it's intermittent bits of, this is as happy as you're going to get. It's going to be, and she promises, like, it's going to be all right in a minute. She promises because she knows he's going to forget in a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
We end on the trees. I mean, it's perfect. It's literally framed like a masterpiece, framed like the painting, one might say. Trees. Yeah.
Yeah, so powerful stuff for sure.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else to say about it that we haven't already said, Dragon. It's like this thing, it's hard to watch to a certain extent just because, like I said, the subject matter for me is very close to home, and I'm without getting into too many personal details, I'm very nervous about when I'm going to have to face a situation like this.
It's a universal fear, Tiki. It's a universal fear.
Yeah, right. So, so in that regard, I mean, I feel like it blends drama with a little bit of horror and thriller elements to it in a, not in a disrespectful or
Shyamalanian fashion.
Yeah, it's more so just like the real life kind of horror of the situation, and yeah, I mean, what more needs to be said about Hopkins' performance? Dude just fucking knocks it out of the park, absolutely. Like he really just like, oh, I'm not on the Mount Rushmore of best actors yet, am I not? Well, let's see, this ought to do it. All right, final thoughts on your end?
Final thoughts on my end. It's so ironic how this story is about the kind of the dementia of a man named Anthony when Hopkins himself is in rare form and so in control of everything in this film. It's so ironic, he's just playing a man who's losing all his facilities, where this man, to deliver this performance, must have all his facilities.
Exactly.
Like if Anthony Hopkins ever need like to put something on a shelf like with his arms full, like there, you see, I've still got it. I never lost it. It's kind of like the kind of you give that man a cigar moment, that sort of thing. It's it's the movie. It's bare bone and simple as it gets. You have the actor and you have the craft, and it's either going to shine or it won't. And a role in Anthony Hopkins, later again, a role in Anthony Hopkins' later years that addresses the vulnerability in such an unflappable way. Children fear seeing their fathers lose a step. We've all had that fear. We probably all had that moment, or we're going to have that moment at some point in life. The film speaks to a sadness, but so interestingly, it also there's like an undercurrent of love in kind of in that reality. There's kind of a love in that. As a lifetime fades, you live day to day through the eyes of an innocent. And I think that's kind of like the very fascinating note the movie ends on, where again there's a warmth there despite all the sadness. And again, like it's the love that was kind of throughout the whole film. And again, it's kind of like fatherly relationships are tricky. Getting back to the Father's Day, but fatherly relationships can be tricky. They can be simple. It depends, but there's usually a love there, whether it be a twisted or a complicated love. But there is a love, and I think the film kind of brings that to the front at the very end, despite all the kind of the horrific real world kind of sadness and the stuff that shouldn't happen, but it does. And that's the thing. The movie just encapsulates fatherhood is tricky. You're going to make mistakes, and maybe there's going to be a reckoning for those mistakes. Maybe not, and maybe it's just how life is. It's the movie's just it's unequivocally brilliant in so many ways, yet not like like putting on all the blinders. It just is.
All right, well said. Well said. Well, folks, I'm not even going to try and do like a clever, like, oh, ha, 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 we're going to do a quote at the end of this thing like we usually do. I'm not going to do that, Dragon. I feel like this movie's too classy for that. So all I'm going to say is just have a happy Father's Day, folks. Spend time with your dad. If if God, I was going to make an I don't have a dad joke, but that would be
not quite the time for that.
Yeah, I know. Spend time with your dads, cherish them, as this movie shows. You only got them so long, and happy Father's Day, folks.
Happy
Have a
Father's
good one.
Day.